Well, hello everybody and happy Tuesday. So this week is our Holocaust Education Week. It's actually going to be 3 lessons, and then we are ending the week with our Martin Luther King lesson. We just kind of flip-flopped the order a little bit. We just had the day off Monday for Martin Luther King Day. So we're going to put the lesson for that on Friday so that we can do our Holocaust education lessons since we just studied Israel, where we know that the religion of Judaism started. Then we wanted to continue with that for our study of the Holocaust because this event largely impacted Jewish citizens, so Jewish people. I am going to take you through the whole day of Tuesday. So for Tuesday's folder, if you are listening to me right now, you won't need to click on anything yourself. I'm going to take you through the whole lesson and I will tell you exactly what to do. So the first thing that you will need is a piece of paper. Just a piece of notebook paper in your notebook would be ideal, and then I'll walk you through everything we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is look at an image. So I'm going to pull up this image for you, and I actually need to rotate it. So, okay, so I got it facing the right way for you. So I'd like you to pause me at this point and just take a look at what you think you're looking at, and then put me back on so that I can explain what you're looking at. So assuming that you paused me and now you're back, these are badges or fabric patches that were required to be worn by Jewish people during World War II in Europe. And I will give you those dates when we get to the vocabulary, but roughly 1930s and 40s. So this was part of World War II, and that's what this week is going to be about. So I will go into more detail about that in just a moment. But these are fabric patches so that wherever you were, you could be identified, because Jewish people are going to be the group that is targeted and discriminated against and treated very, very badly. So these patches had to be sewn on all of your clothes. So whatever jacket you had, whatever shirt you had to have this patch on it, and you could be punished for not having your badge sewn on your clothes. So if you look at this one, this is the badge that if you were in France and you were Jewish, you would be wearing. They're in different, I'm sorry, this is the French one. They are from different countries. So this is Croatia, this is Poland. Every country had some kind of symbol that you had to wear to identify you as Jewish. This one is this is the German. So you can see the word, it all says Jew, short for Jewish, but in different languages. And then the ones in the middle are for prisoners. So if somebody did get in trouble and was, in trouble not because they did anything wrong, but because maybe they weren't wearing their patch or they had done something else that the government of Germany at the time thought was not, following the rules, then they might get sent to a prison, and this is where the patch for being identified as Jewish in the prison camp would be. I'm not going to go into the prison camps, that's for a later grade, but the thing I want you to get from my class, from this lesson, from 6th grade, is that the people that were forced to wear these and the people that were forced to go to these camps, or sometimes they're called prison camps, sometimes they're called concentration camps, they were not guilty of anything. They had not committed any crimes. So one of our vocabulary words is going to be innocent. So I will take down this image now. At this point, you don't have to write anything down. We're just kind of looking at a few artifacts to get you into what we're doing. So the next image I'm going to show you is this one. Okay. So I would like you to pause me again, and on your piece of paper this time, I would like for you to jot down some information about the photo. So based on what you're seeing here, I'd like you to tell me, is this photo have people in it, or objects, or both? The first thing I'd like to know. People, objects, or both? What are the people doing in the photo? And a few words describing what you think you're looking at in this photo. So go ahead and pause me and jot down your thoughts on what I just said. And then press play again and I'll tell you what you're looking at. Okay, so assuming that you have tried this on your own and now you're ready for me to give you the information. So this photograph is school children. Children were sometimes separated by gender for schools back then, so these are mostly male students, but they are in a what's called a ghetto, Ghetto, and this is part of the terrible treatment of the Jews during World War II was to first make people leave their homes and go into another part of town where it was very, very crowded. The food was limited. The word for that is rationed. And these boys are waiting for the food for the day, the ration for the day. And you bring your own cup or bowl. And you can see that this gentleman, it looks like he has a spoon as well. And you can also see the fabric patches. Some of them have it on different parts of their clothing, so you may not see it, but you can definitely see this one and this one. And this is from a ghetto in Poland, a neighborhood in Poland. And these children are somewhere between 4 and 12. Some of them are younger. They were, um, when I say they were in school in the ghetto, it would have been just whatever school they could sort of patch together and maybe mixed grade. So that is what you're looking at for this photo. So if you need to make any changes or notes on that, you certainly can. I'm going to get out of this one now. This photo 3 is just the information about that first picture you looked like with all the armbands. So if you want to see specifically what each one, where each country came, where each patch came from, you can look at that. If you want it to be flipped correctly, you just click download image and then you'll be able to turn it. Okay, so I'm going to go into vocabulary at this point. So you're going to need a clean piece of notebook paper for this. And I'm going to take you through the PowerPoint just like I'm doing with the brick and mortar students. So this isn't going to be a buzz chart in the traditional way we've done it. We're not going to put a buzzword or a picture because this topic is so serious. I don't want any pictures on your paper, that might be inaccurate, or it's just a lot to ask for you to draw a picture of this. So the first thing you're doing is not writing this definition down, but this is in the letter that I sent home that I posted for you last week. So it's just the actual definition that is in the requirement for when we learn about this in school. So the history of the Holocaust and the dates for the Holocaust are close to the dates of World War II, but this number is a little bit sooner. So the Holocaust, the horrible treatment of the Jews actually started before the official start of World War II. So 1933 to 1945, if you're a history person and you want to write those dates down, those are the official dates of the Holocaust. And that is the systematic, and I'll explain this in kid terms in just a second. Let me just read it. The systematic planned annihilation of European Jews and other groups by Nazi Germany, a watershed event in the history of humanity to be taught in a manner that leads to an investigation of human behavior, an understanding of the ramification of prejudice, racism, and stereotyping, and an examination of what it means to be a responsible and respectful person for the purposes of encouraging tolerance of diversity in a pluralistic society for nurturing and protecting democratic values and institutions. So what this really means is that the history of the Holocaust itself is the name we give to the dates of 1933 to 1945, where a group of unkind people that are called Nazis, and they were from Germany, but there were plenty of Germans who were not Nazis, who were not making these bad choices. So it's important not to say that the Germans were doing this, but rather use the correct term of the Nazis were doing this. So this group of people was responsible for doing very, very unkind things to Jewish people. And there were other groups that were affected as well, but the majority of victims were Jewish. And the reason that we study it, that's what this part is about, is because we want to remember the things that happened in the past, even though they are not pleasant, because it helps us to be responsible and respectful people who are tolerant, in other words, kind to each other, and nice to everyone, and treat people equally and fairly. So that's what this is saying. So for your vocabulary, this is what your paper should look like. There are going to be 7 words, and you should have word as a column and definition as a column. So go ahead and pause me while you draw that. Okay, so assuming that you've pressed play and have me back, you're ready to go. So your first word is WW and then line, line. And that is the Roman numeral for 2, and the WW stands for World War. So for your definition column, you're writing stands for World War II. The dates for World War II are 1939 to 1945. When many countries were fighting, much of the fighting happened in Europe. So we call it a world war because there were a lot of countries involved, so it felt like the world was at war with each other, was fighting with each other. The next word is arm number, and this isn't an official term, but this is going to make sense when we watch a documentary, which is a video about a real person later in the week. You're going to hear this phrase. So we're using the term arm number, and it's a tattoo forcefully given to victims of the Holocaust and used as identification. So it was usually on the arm, usually the left arm, between your wrist and elbow, between a person's wrist and elbow, and it was a permanent tattoo so that the Nazis could easily identify a person without using their name, which is really it's really not a good thing to do that. It's important to call people by their name and remember that they're human. Nazi, a group of people during World War II responsible for the Holocaust. That's your third word. And I know I'm going fast, but you're pausing me to write when you need to. Auschwitz, I'm not going to teach about this. This is a death camp. This is a concentration camp, and I'm not going to get into that in 6th grade. However, in the documentary, the man in the documentary was at that camp and he survived. So that's what he's going to say, that word, in the video, so I wanted you to know what he was talking about. One of many camps where innocent victims like Jack, that's the name of the man in our documentary, were sent during the Holocaust. Innocent, to be not guilty, a person who did nothing wrong. And victim, a person who is harmed or killed. The last word is survivor, a person who remains alive when others do not. Okay, so if you have the vocabulary, then you are all set for today, and the rest of the week will be in the folders and you'll be able to see what to do. Please message me if you have any questions, and I hope you have a good day.